Hello, my name is Michelle Gorbani, and I'm a student at Kaiser University in the Applied Survey Research course with Dr. Lori. And today I'll be presenting my Week 7 journal assignment, where I summarize what I've learned over the past 7 weeks and explain how it connects to the topic I chose, which was satisfaction and engagement among call center employees. So thank you for joining me. So the process here will be to read the slide information, go over the bullet points, and then kind of give my own interpretation of the content and how it landed with me, and especially in regards to the study that I had chosen. So for week 1, we went over survey fundamentals. The first bullet is a consensus surveys the entire population, while a sample survey surveys a representative subset. Bullet number 2 in organizational research, a well-structured sample can still yield reliable results. Bullet number 3, social desirability and response anchoring can distort participation honesty. And bullet number 4, clear Likert scale design supports ethical and reliable responses. So for me in week 1, what we were doing was getting in touch with the basics, things like understanding the difference between a consensus and a sample survey. So of course, the consensus surveys, this is a whole population. But obviously in the real world, when it comes to research, that's likely never going to be realistic. So a big takeaway from me was sitting with the understanding that if I have a sample and it is well structured and represented, it can still give me the reliable results that I need to make the inferences that I am. So additionally, what we talked about, different kinds of bias, one being social desirability bias. And this is where people answer the way they think you want in response to anchoring. And those answers, they will skew the data. So, we must be cognizant of that and careful. And one thing that really stood out was the importance of the clarity of the Likert scale designs. Because if participants can express themselves clearly and then also feel safe doing it, your data is going to be more valid. So for my project, or for my chosen, for the call center employees, all of this matters because honest feedback and thoughtful sampling, these things can really make the quality of my findings or break them. So in week 2, we see survey design, inclusive language, and bias. Under the first bullet, inclusive survey design helps ensure all participants feel recognized and respected. Bullet number 2, offering diverse demographic options promotes better participant comfort and accuracy. Bullet number 3, reducing bias through clear wording improves the validity of response. And bullet number 4, ethical survey practices involve using inclusive language and protecting participant confidentiality. So in week 2, for me, what we got into was how to design surveys that are fair and inclusive. And I appreciated, revisiting just how important it is to offer demographic options that let participants describe themselves, not forcing them into these boxes or limited categories, basically. So things like offering a prefer to describe option, for instance, for gender, it can make a huge difference in making people feel seen. So we also visited bias and how even something simple like unclear wording can confuse participants. It can push them toward a certain answer without even meaning to. So that stuck with me, and another thing that stuck with me was the reminder that protecting confidentiality isn't just about ethics. It's also about making people feel safe. And that's when we get the honesty. So for the call center study, getting these design details right, it is critical. If the survey feels inclusive, if it's clear, if it's safe, then the quality of the feedback will be much better. In week 3, population sampling and data collection. Bullet 1, choosing the right population is essential for gathering meaningful survey data. Bullet 2, stratified and purposive sampling help ensure representation across different groups. Bullet 3, ethical sampling practices must protect participant confidentiality and minimize harm. And Bullet 4, data collection challenges like low response rates and accessibility require proactive planning. So for week 3, the focus was on choosing the right population, okay, and figuring out the best way to sample from it. So for my study, I picked the call center employees because they face a lot of turnover and burnout, and understanding their engagement could help, and of course it does help organizations improve the retention rates. So I refocused, was reintroduced to stratified random sampling, and it being a positive way to ensure groups, like for instance, day shift, night shift, different job roles, are being fairly represented. I also realized that sometimes purposive sampling is useful. So if you need to target like a specific team or department, there you go. Another big thing was thinking through the ethical side of sampling. It's not, again, it's not just about getting the data. Like it's about protecting the people's confidentiality, that making sure that no one feels singled out or pressured. Additionally, we talked about practical challenges to like low response rates and how important it is to plan for those issues ahead of time. And for my call center project, it's really clear to me that being thoughtful about how and who I include and how I reach them, it will make a big difference in the quality of the data. So week 4, data cleaning and screening. Bullet 1, data must be cleaned to remove careless or incomplete responses for accurate results. Bullet point 2, screening for missing data and outliers is crucial before conducting analysis. Bullet point 3, Cronbach's alpha is used to check the internal consistency of survey response. And bullet point 4, clean, reliable data increases the validity and trustworthiness of research findings. So in week 4, the focus was on what happens after you collect survey data. And really how important it is to clean and screen it before you start analyzing anything. I also learned, which it does make sense, that if your survey is well designed, it doesn't mean you're going to get very careful responses. You still have carelessness associated here. For instance, like people rushing through or straight lining their answers. So those are things that like you should think about and attempt to spot early on, and have a plan in place. So for instance, if a survey has a lot of missing data, one of the better approaches here you could take is to fill in blanks using methods. For instance, like mean imputation. If you absolutely have to, you could remove the incomplete surveys altogether, and that's also an option. So I think one thing I found really important is to check the internal consistency of your scales. And the way you do that is by using these tools like Cronbach's alpha. So, making sure all the items that are supposed to measure the same thing, that they're actually working together. Okay, so visual tools like box plots, scatter plots, they can help catch like weird outliers that could throw off your results, especially if you don't address them. So that's all of that information kind of came back around to my call center study as getting the data clean and reliable at the very start. Because even like the small errors could seriously distort how the employee satisfaction and engagement look in the final results. So, week 5, descriptive and inferential statistics. Descriptive statistics summarize survey responses using means, medians, and standard deviations. Inferential statistics like t-tests and correlations allow researchers to generalize results. Identifying outliers and extreme values is essential to protect data validity. Strong analysis connects survey findings back to research, questions, and population trends. So for me, week 5, I felt like a shift into actually analyzing survey data. And I realized there's a big difference between just describing your data and actually making inferences from it. One thing about descriptive statistics, like the mean and the median and the standard deviation, it helps you summarize what your survey responses look like overall. So it is a way of organizing this like plethora of raw data into patterns, ones that like you can actually understand. But inferential statistics, okay, like t-test and correlations, those are where you start to like really learn something. They more so let you take your sample and apply these educated guesses about the bigger population. So another thing, we talked about was the importance to spot outliers early on, because if you don't, they can throw off the averages, and really you're looking at this messed up analysis. So for the project that I chose on the call center employees, being able to run these correct statistical tests, I know that will be key. Not just to describe the satisfaction levels that I find, for instance, but really to understand what's influencing them and how engagement trends across different shifts or roles show up, for instance. Week 6, reliability and validity. Cronbach's alpha measures internal consistency with scores above 0.7 considered acceptable. Validity ensures survey items measure what they intend to measure. Content, construct, face, and criterion validity strengthen the credibility of survey results. Reliable and valid instruments improve the trustworthiness of data analysis. So week 6, I focused on how to make sure that my survey actually measured what it's supposed to measure and that it does it consistently. We also visited Cronbach's Alpha, and of course that checks the internal consistency of survey items. Basically, if you're asking different questions about the same thing, like job satisfaction, which I would be, Cronbach's Alpha will tell me whether the answers are lining up the way they should. So a score, for instance, above 0.7, that's considered acceptable. We covered different types of validity. Content validity, that looks at whether the surveys covers, does it cover everything it should? Construct validity, this checks if you're actually measuring the right concept. Face validity is more about whether it looks like it's measuring the right thing. And criterion validity, that links survey scores to real world outcomes. So for my call center study, getting the right reliability and the validity right is huge. If my survey, for instance, if it's not solid, then it doesn't really matter how much data I collect because the results wouldn't mean very much. So I have to make sure that the survey holds up, basically I need to make sure that the survey that I'm, putting out there holds up, and makes my findings trustworthy. Week 7, overcoming research challenges. Ensuring participation on anonymity is critical for honest survey responses. Stratified and purposive sampling can help minimize sampling bias across different shifts and departments, Pilot testing surveys improve cultural and language inclusiveness. Overall, strong survey planning and ethical practices will support accurate research outcomes. So in week 7, I'm looking at some of the challenges I'm probably going to face when I actually run my study and starting to think through how I would handle them. And one of the biggest challenges that came to mind right away is making sure that the participants feel safe about being honest. Okay, so like especially in the workplace setting, people might worry about retaliation for one. That's like the first thing that comes to mind. So how would I mitigate it? Well, I'm planning to use anonymous survey platforms. I'm turning off IP tracking. And I'm clearly explaining, that their answers can't be traced back to them. Another challenge is avoiding for sampling bias. Call centers have lots of different departments. There's lots of different shifts usually, and lots of different job roles. So I would need to make sure that I'm not just hearing from like one group more than others. And the way that I would do this is by using stratified sampling. And that will help me make sure that the sample, it reflects the full employee population. The third thing I'm thinking about is language and cultural barriers. Workplaces that are diverse, which is really, all around the world at this point, even simple survey wording, it can cause like massive misunderstandings. So I'm planning to pilot test the survey first. So with a small like mixed group to catch any confusion or biased language or any negative reaction so that I can correct it. Overall, I just know that careful planning and ethical practices, those things will make the study give the robustness, the quality of what I would feel happy about representing. So looking back over, the course, one thing that really surprised me was just how much work happens before you even collect data. I never, obviously I've been on this trajectory now for going close to 8 years, but there was a time in life where I did not even think much about, the questions for surveys. I was just like, oh, it's just a question. But, now I see how much planning and design, something that's ethical and inclusive and statistically solid, like I see how much work goes into it. And I do really feel like I built up my awareness, my skills, etc. in the survey construction area, exemplified my understanding about the participant, their confidentiality, and doing real data analysis. Sharpening my understanding of reliability and validity. It also changes how I view research. Every time I have a new understanding of something, it alters it slightly. It's not really enough just to go out there and collect a bunch of answers. You have to prove that what you're measuring, that it actually means something. And that mindset is it impacts me, and it is something that I really value. Going forward, I'm really excited to build on everything I've learned. I would like to be able to expand the study across, different call center locations, comparing results by shift, department, or even region, to spot bigger patterns that can be further analyzed and understood. Another thing I want to do is connect survey results like directly to business outcomes, like turnover rates and absenteeisms to really show that engagement isn't just a feel-good thing, like it's tied to real organizational success. That's something that I am very, very much looking forward to being able to do. So overall, everything I've learned in this course, it continues to lay this strong foundation for my final doctoral project and my dissertation. And I feel a lot more confident, every course that goes by about moving into that final phase. So I just want to. All right, that wraps this up. I want to say thank you to Dr. Slifka for designing this course in such a great, engaging, and critically stimulating way. I do appreciate how everything built on itself, from survey design to the data analysis, and leaving me thinking, how I'm going to handle these real research challenges. So the experience just added another layer to the foundation that I need to feel confident moving forward to the end of this program, this doctoral project. So I appreciate the work and the dedication, again, that goes into these courses, and have a great one.